All right, let's get started. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Next Gen Networking and How Artificial Intelligence is Transforming Your Network. My name is Ryan Deppe. I'm a Specialty Solutions Architect here at Winslow Technology Group. We'll taking you through the webinar today. Today's agenda, as we get started, a little bit of an overview of Winslow Technology Group, and then we'll jump into the meat of the presentation. We'll wrap up with some Q&A at the end. And as always, as we're going through the webinar, if you do have any questions, please put those in the chat. We'll try to get to them at the end of the webinar if we have time. If not, the questions will be recorded and we'll get to those offline and respond to you via email. And more importantly, as all of this information on the screen, please stay in attendance for the webinar. We will be drawing for a Yeti cooler at the end. So stay intact for that, and you will be contacted for, if you do win the cooler, you will be contacted through email. All right, let's jump into it here. So let's talk about Winslow Technology Group a little bit. Winslow Technology Group is headquartered in Waltham, Massachusetts, with offices in New York City, Charlotte, and Washington, D.C. We are a technology solutions provider that handles solutions from the desktop to the data center. As you can see on the screen here, there's a lot of offerings that we can help you with, AI obviously being one of those, but also a wide variety of technology solutions from networking to data center, endpoints, to managed service offerings, professional services, as well as financial offerings for leasing of equipments and licensing. Our mission here at Winslow Technology Group is to deliver solutions with passion, expertise, and successful outcomes. We are very much customer focused, and we look forward to helping you find the technologies that work in your environment and building a trusted advisor relationship with you. All right, let's kind of jump into the meat of the webinar today. We're going to talk first a little bit about kind of how AI has evolved in the network. It's kind of started early on, and to where we get to today is kind of this growth model you can see here with our friendly robots on the screen. We'll walk through each of these kind of in an overview line. We won't dive into a ton of detail for each one of these, but you'll kind of get the idea of what we're talking about from an AI perspective. Because oddly enough, AI has been around in the networking field for quite some time. Just in different levels of complexities and what it can bring to us as network engineers or network operators. Early on we had CLI and GUI-based interfaces, right? Not a ton of AI built into that. Sure, you could do some automated scripting stuff with CLI in the early days of CLI. GUI helped a little bit with that, right? With automating some of those tasks where you didn't have to type that in on the CLI interface. A little bit of automation there, a little bit of intelligence, but not a lot. But more so above than the standard CLI. And then we see a large growth in the network industry when software-defined networking kind of comes into play. And much like AI, software-defined networking is kind of a very broad term, right? It encompasses a lot of things. And that's kind of why I use that as a qualifier here. This could be anything from enhanced scripting, whether it's Python or Ansible playbooks or APIs, anything like that, right? That's Fabric, all that kind of stuff kind of falls into that SDN kind of nomenclature, and that's really where we start to see a lot more intelligence kind of coming into network design, network administration, things like that. And then we make a big leap here in the past few years where generative AI kind of comes into the market. And we start to see network engineers using Gen AI, whether it's ChatGPT or some other model, right, Copilot. Maybe they're using that to help build configs for their switches, help validate configs for their environments, asking questions about their environments with Gen AI. So you start to see that kind of playing into that, even to the part where you're using Gen AI to even start maybe even building configs, whether that's automated or not. We've seen that a lot, and there are entire movements around that now where several people have developed mechanisms to build certain configurations for the networking environment, specifically using Gen AI and that scripting ability built into that, as well as the intelligence within those large language models. And sort of the next kind of what we're going to talk about today a little bit is that next iteration of AI in your network. In the next big leap in space, and the big robot in the space today, right, is agentic AI. Where now you're, as opposed to using Gen AI on a little separate engine that maybe you went to Chat GPT for some stuff and you were looking at it, or maybe you use Copilot or whatever that may be. Now with agentic AI, you're having those same capabilities built into your networking environment, built into your networking management interfaces, generally cloud-based and things like that, but we are seeing some of it trickle down into the locally managed piece as well. So that's kind of the first thing we want to talk about here. And we're going to talk about this a little bit. I use this model so you can kind of appreciate what's happening, right? Ready or not, my friends, the AI Express has left the station. Like this is happening. This isn't just talk or marketing anymore, like it has been in the past. This is happening from an AI perspective, and you're going to start to see that creep into your network and how you management and the tools that you use to manage your network. It's going to happen. It's kind of unfortunately unavoidable at this point. So what does it mean, like we're seeing this AI integrations into our network? What you're going to be talking about and what you'll be seeing throughout, regardless of the networking vendor that you're using, right? You're going to be hearing mechanisms and tools coming into place about how they're going to be able to bring you to that next level of intent-based networking. More enhanced dynamic resource allocation, reduced errors, because now you're able to use from an agentic AI's perspective, it can help you with configuration tasks that you were previously doing from a manual basis and eliminating that human error piece, right? So that's an enhanced ability of agentic AI, is to do things with a lower rate of error than we as humans can do. Enhanced security, we'll talk about that a little bit, about how that's affecting your networking, mostly like on the firewalling side. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then decreased MTTR, so mean time to resolution. We're seeing lots of growth and abilities with agentic AI to assist us as engineers with troubleshooting or understanding what's going on in your environment, more so from a chat-based, or as it sounds, from an agent-based perspective, instead of us doing manual research across our entire network footprint to understand where the problem is or what's causing it. So lots of interesting dynamics coming out of that piece, specifically around troubleshooting. And we ask ourselves, what's fueling this kind of AI Express that has left the station, right? What is fueling this engine? And I put kind of it's like a tri-blend of things that's happening. That's agentic AI is the most important, right? That is what's happening. That's the driving force behind a lot of this. FOMO, fear of missing out, and we'll see that a little bit. And FOMO isn't so much from us on the network engineering side that's driving this. It's the networking vendors, right? They have to get on this agentic AI bandwagon, right? And to be able to say that, yes, I'm doing this as well as this other vendor is doing this. So there's a lot of that happening, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. And just overall, just the hype of what's going on with AI. If any of you have been to any conferences at all from any networking or technology vendor, I can almost guarantee you that AI, in any sense of the matter, has been a premier discussion point, and it comes up all the time. So there's a lot of hype around this. Obviously, it started a lot in the compute space with large language models and GPUs from NVIDIA and other companies. But now you're starting to see that hype kind of trickle down into the network, and we're using those integrations with agentic AI to build the next wave of AI modeling in the network. So again, we talked briefly about what our networking vendors do to kind of jump on this AI Express, and they're all doing it. It's across the entire networking portfolio. It's not just one company that is doing this or one company that's specializing this. I have a few here that we can look at real quickly. Cisco obviously is leading the space in this. They have their AI assistant. in their Catalyst Center, as well as now in their Meraki environment. They've just announced for Cisco, their AI Canvas model was released at Cisco Live this year in San Diego. Agentic Ops is their new marketing term for what this is going to be used for. And essentially, it becomes an AI assistant for you for everything from troubleshooting to ticket resolution to all kinds of investigative and troubleshooting pieces within your networking environment. And like I said, this isn't just a single vendor situation. There's a lot of others that are driving this AI space in their environment. Extreme being one with their new Platform One, HP Aruba with networking and Aruba Central, all with expanded AI capabilities. And lastly, I threw this one in here as well, right? Juniper with their Mist platform and the enhanced AI native networking that's built into that. We won't get it in here today, but with the acquisition of Juniper by HPE, that throws in some interesting dynamics of what's going to happen in that networking space. We're all going to still kind of learn what's happening with that. That did just get cleared. So as we learn more about that, we'll see what that looks like from an AI perspective. How that affects both the HPE and Juniper models. So, as we did talk about a lot, security as an option for this, right? Like, how is this affecting security? Again, in various sizes of operations and various states of use, AI has kind of been in security for a little while now. We've seen it very heavily used in MDR and XDR solutions, mostly around like user behavior analytics, data normalization, or even machine learning. So for several years now, in varying degrees of complexity, AI has been used to take all of that machine-generated data that you get from all your security telemetry and all your devices, whether it's firewalls, networking, servers, whatever that may be. It's taking all of that data and converting it from machine data to human readable data. AI has been doing a lot of that, over the past few years. And now we're seeing enhancements where agentic AI is coming in and now allowing you to do more of chat-based research on that data. What does that look like? What trend is building? What are you seeing from normalization of data from what's going to happen? Is my network at risk? Things like that, right? So we're going to cover a little bit more of what that looks like from a firewall perspective as well, to see how is AI helping in that space as well. And again, here we go. Let's take a look at it. So effects of agentic AI on your firewalls. Again, we are talking about networking in general. Firewall is a critical part of your entire network infrastructure. It's not just switching and wired networking or wireless networking. Your firewall is a big piece of that. And what we're seeing today, growth in the AI space for firewalls is a lot around reducing human error. You'll see several different bullet points here across the screen about what that looks like, but it's a lot around proactive actions from your firewall with that AI piece kind of built in rather than reactive, which helps protect your environment at a faster pace as opposed to what you're doing from a manual perspective today. The biggest thing that we're seeing out of this so far from an agentic AI perspective is, like we said, reducing human error and refining firewall policies. And as anyone that has managed a firewall for a long period of time, everyone knows that we all fight policy creep within our environment, and understanding what that looks like and trying to understand what rules are being used and what rules aren't being used. Are there any overlapping policies or things like that? Trying to sift through that from a manual perspective is a daunting task, right? Nobody wants to do that, especially if you have hundreds or thousands of firewall rules in your environment. Agentic AI is helping us simplify that, right? Again, from that kind of chat-based or agent-based solution, you can now interact with this AI engine to say, hey, where do I have overlapping firewall policies? Are you seeing any events correlating across data sources, help me identify outdated or overly permissive rules in my environment. And oh, by the way, can you correlate those rules to specific compliance standard, whether it's NIST or CIS? So all this stuff is now bringing additional layers of intelligence into your network that you didn't have before, or you were heavily reliant on a human-based interaction to do that. Now, does that mean that there are no safeguards in place, whether it's for agentic AI, whether it's on your networking or your firewall? Absolutely not. Everything that we are seeing so far, can agentic AI make configuration changes in your environment? Yes, it can, if you allow it to do so, and if you approve those changes. So there's our safeguards still in place, human safeguards that will prevent unwanted changes in your environment. So we're not quite at the point, where the robots are taking over, and that's not where we're at today. We're more at limiting human error and reducing those errors across your environment. Because if you look at a lot of firewall statistics across what's caused certain issues for people's networks where they've been compromised, a very, very large percentage of those issues is caused by human errors based on rules that exist or don't exist in their firewalls. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic to think about and review. So the other thing that we talk about a little bit with how AI is affecting our network. So far, we've talked about AI management assisting us with our environment, whether it's config changes, policy changes, all that kind of stuff, being that kind of agentic AI assistant that's sitting now on your network and helping you understand what's going on and increasing your visibility and your understanding of what's happening in your network, whether it's config changes or troubleshooting or whatever that may be. The other interesting part that we're now seeing in the network world that AI is kind of driving, it's actually driving hardware, and it's driving hardware to much larger scales because of what's happening with the demand that we're seeing for AI in general, whether it's generative or agentic. A lot of times when you hear people talking about AI in general, whether you hear it at a trade show or in marketing material, whatever it may be, a lot of the focus has been on the compute side. So many GPUs and so many threads of CPU processing power, and the big dense servers that it takes to run these AI engines, whether it's inferencing or whether it's just doing large language models to run these AI engines. You usually hear about it from a compute and power perspective, right? And as we can see, power is going to be a huge issue, and it already is, to generate the electricity needed to run these AI farms. So we're seeing that a lot of data centers now popping up on the market now, looking for power generation capabilities. And what does that mean from a networking perspective? So as these AI compute servers get larger and larger, the requirement to move data in greater capacities at lower latencies is going to continue to escalate, right? And we're seeing that across the market now. Whether we're talking about Cisco Nexus switching and their 800 gig platform that they have now, or even the NVIDIA series moving 800 gigs of data per second to support some of these AI environments is just mind-boggling, right? To move that much data across these environments to support these AI modes and everything else it's kind of a unestimated growth that we really didn't see coming out of that AI market. Everybody was so focused on servers, they forgot about that, hey, we still have to communicate with those servers. And now the networking industry is quickly catching up to that, right? To make sure that it can support all of that traffic on these AI servers, whether it's user interaction traffic or even just east-west traffic between the AI nodes themselves. The network is the foundation. If that's not there, those AI servers can't communicate with anything. So keep in mind for that, if you're thinking about introducing AI into your networking environment or even to your data centers. Um, focus obviously is important. You have to have the compute engines to run that, right? That's kind of step number one. But don't sleep on your network as far as what you may need to actually support that traffic in and out of your environment. It's a critical piece of that is unfortunately often overlooked. But as you can see by the slides here, companies are starting to pick up on that, and business models are now being adjusted to support the network initiative to also support their compute initiative for AI. So it's an important piece. So all of that said, again, we have limited time here, so unfortunately we can't dive into a whole ton of details about exactly what's happening with every vendor across the platform. I would love to do that, but that's just not going to happen in a 20 or 30-minute webinar, right? This is kind of gets you an overview of what's happening in the industry. So, as I've discussed here, a little bit of information with you about what's happening with the agentic AI in the networking industry. What do we do as network engineers, operators, of management, or whatever that be? What do we do now with this whole agentic AI thing? Like, what do we do as technology people? Do we sit back and kind of, brush our hands with it and wait for the robots to take over? No, unfortunately, we can't do that. That's not a sustainable model, right? We're a long way from the robots taking over. If you've used any of the chat GPT functionalities or any of those types of language models, it's still riddled with errors. So I feel pretty confident we're a long way from the robots taking over. On the flip side of that, do you just stick your head in the sand and ignore the changing tides, right? Also not a good idea either. I know a lot of us as IT people, we're not big fans of change, but this is one of the things that one of the changes I think we're going to have to accept, because it is coming. Like we talked about, the AI Express has left the station, right? And it's time to get on board. This is not something that I recommend you just sleeping on. From a network engineering perspective, this is something that I highly recommend spending some time doing some research with whatever networking vendor you may have prevalent in your organization. Start to understand what they're doing from an AI perspective in their portfolio, right? For a year or two ago, I would say it was mostly marketing material, and they were just kind of trying to keep up. Where we are today, we've surpassed that. The AI that has been pushed into various networking vendors, it's there, right? It's no longer introductory, it's no longer experimental, it's there, it's happening, it's being pushed into production levels. So take the time for your benefit to learn about what your networking vendor is doing with AI and how it's going to help or benefit your environment and how you manage or maintain your network going forward. It's absolutely paramount that you do that. So with that said, if you don't know where to start, how can you find help? That's where Winslow Technology Group comes in. We have a AI Launchpad service that we can help if you're interested in large language models, or you want to get kind of started with that chat GPT like functionality, but you don't necessarily want that to be a public source. You prefer that to be something internal to your environment where your data is protected and walled off from public servers and that environments. We can help you with that, right? If you want to set up your own internal chat GPT like instance, we can help you pick the right makes and models of servers and networking and things like that to set that up in your environment in a gated situation, right, where your environment's protected. So that's it's a benefit that we're seeing. A lot of customers are very interested in that because, quite honestly, there's still a lot of unknown in this environment, right? There's still a lot of gray area. There's all kinds of information out there about it, but a lot of people are struggling with where do we start? And that's where Winslow can help. We can help you answer that questions and point you in the right directions. So if you're interested in any of that, please feel free to reach out to services@winslowtg.com, and someone from our technical team would get back to you and help you align this kind of Launchpad service, see what that looks like. We have AI workshops that we can walk your team through to help understand what does that mean for my environment and my company today, both from a compute and a networking or even a storage perspective. So I think that's it. Let's see if there's anything else. That is it. So we'll take a look at the chat box here to see if there's any questions based on today's call. I don't think there is anything openly asked here. So I think that's pretty much it for today. We're gonna wrap up today's sessions. I appreciate everyone taking the time to sit through the webinar today and learn a little bit about how AI is affecting networking, both with agentic and generative. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and thank you for attending.